Hey guys, welcome to another video. It's been a while since the last upload, so I figured, it's been more than a few months now since I did the Gecko Common manga review. I kind of felt like going back and reviewing a novel, and wasn't quite sure what to pick. And this is kind of a problem with the YouTube channel in general. Is I'm a very picky reader, so if I read a book or I'm not sure, what to start with, it's better to just wait until I find a book that's actually worth reviewing. That said, I figured if I'm gonna do a video review, then it may as well be on an author that I'm very, very fond of. One of my all-time favorite authors, Anne McCaffrey. Now, if you guys don't know who Anne McCaffrey is and you have no idea who I'm talking about, which is kind of unlikely, but anyway, she wrote a series of books. She's actually written a number of series. She did the Unicorn Girl, Acorna, if I'm not mistaken. She did the Dragon Riders of Pern. She did the Singing Ship series. I'm not sure what it's actually called now, but she has quite an extensive bibliography, and yeah, I figured I'd cover one such series, actually the series that really sort of got me into her books, and one of my all-time favorite series just in general. And that series is the Tower in the Hive series. Now, the Tower in the Hive was a series of 5 books that took place in Anne McCaffrey's Talent universe, or Talent saga. And it basically, the story of the series overall was that it's in the far future, we have colonized certain areas of space, and in certain places we have these, I guess, like space stations or courier stations or whatever you want to call it, and these this has all been made possible through the discovery of psychic abilities, and these psychic abilities have essentially become kind of a backbone, if you can, for lack of a better word. So new technologies have been developed, and these talents, as they're called in the books, are sort of stretched out. So you've got a couple of different like solar systems, and each solar system has what is called a tower, which is basically like a big way station or warehouse or whatever you want to call it. And the talents, these towers are manned by the talents, and each team of talents is headed up by what's called a prime, someone called a prime, and their job is basically to courier resources and materials to and from places within what is called the 9-star league. So the Earth system, and then you've got the Capellan place, you've got Altair and Capella, and Beetlejuice. I can't remember them all now, but you've got at least one tower in each system. Each system has a prime, and everybody kind of trades resources in order to keep everything running. Now, I actually first found this series when I was about I think I must have been about 14 or 15 years old. It started gravitating to the more adult section of the library. And really, there is only so many. There really are only a few Hardy Boys novels that you can read. I loved reading the Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew and the Legends of King Arthur and stuff like that growing up. But even I can only take so much. So, I mean, yeah, I've got a whole bunch of like Hardy Boys novels here behind me. But, I really can only take so much. As such, I was pleasantly surprised. I found The Tower and the Hive. I found 4 of the 5 books at my local library, and I'm pretty sure I must have irritated a couple of library patrons or Anne McCaffrey fans who wanted to read these books, because I would take them out, and then 2 weeks later, I'd go back to the library, or like a week later, or whatever it was. Whenever I finished the books, I'd basically go back to the library either the same day that I finished the book or the day after, and then I'd renew them. And I think I must have at one point renewed them to the point where I had them for almost like 6 weeks or something. So I'm pretty sure I must have irritated a couple of people. Yeah, I mean, of all the books in the series, I think the Rowan, the first book, is probably my favorite in the series. My personal favorite. And the Rowan herself is kind of my favorite character, I think. Although, it's either the Rowan or her daughter, who we will talk about in the sequel, in the next book. But what is the first book about? The first book in the series, the Rowan, follows Angerad Gwyn, who is essentially, as a child, she basically becomes the sole survivor of a mudslide that basically wipes out a mining camp, and she is literally the only person to survive. When she's pulled out of the sort of mud and sludge and what have you, and the book basically goes through her childhood into her teen years at Altair Tower. It goes kind of through her childhood on Altair and goes through her training to be a Tower Prime. And we get to see her grow up and become a Prime and fall in love and start a family, which is a lot of fun. It was genuinely a lot of fun to read. Sorry guys, my throat's a little dry. In general, I don't know how much I can actually say about the book, the book's plot. Other than we basically watch the Rowan grow up. She becomes a Tower Prime. She makes contact and defeats an aggressive alien species, saving another colony and falling in love in the process. We get to see her start a family. She gets married. She saves another colony, as I just said. And that's basically all I can say about the plot, because if I said anything else, I'd probably ruin the book for anyone who hasn't read it yet. So what did I like about the book? Well, let's start off with the characters and take it from there. The majority of the book, the majority of the first half of the book is the Rowan's childhood. From the time that she's pulled out of the wreckage of the mudslide that destroyed the mining camp to her time where she becomes a Tower Prime. And the second half of the book focuses on her time as a Prime, and how she runs her tower, how she interacts with other primes, and so on and so forth. Now, because the book focuses so much on her childhood, pretty much the whole first half of the book is about the Rowan as she grows up. We really, as readers, we really get to know who she is as a character. Every time when she is suffering, you suffer with her. If she is happy, you're happy for her. And that's kind of the way it should be, at least in my opinion. The supporting cast of characters is pretty good. It is actually really good. Pretty much everybody is unique, and they all, at the very least, they all play a part in the plot in some way or another. And overall, they're just likable. The characters overall are likable. There are a few characters that I just plain didn't like, and those characters were on the receiving end of some serious karma. So, yeah. That just made it that much more worth reading. In terms of the writing style, it's actually pretty easy to read. It's not childish or condescending in any way. And it's genuinely a lot of fun. Anybody can really pick it up and read it. That said, hell, I was 14 when I read it, or 15 when I read it the first time. But, I would have been able to pick this book up and read it at age, 10 or 11 even. Now, personally, I wouldn't recommend that. There are a few very sort of adult moments. And these books, every book in the series has these moments, but they are written in a way that is very tasteful. You are given enough information that you know what's going on, but not enough that you can't really imagine anything about what is happening. You're not given any specifics in a lot of these instances. The story itself is pretty interesting, with very few, if any, plot holes to speak of. The humor in the book is spot on. The world building is phenomenal. I have to say, I don't think I've ever really believed in a book series universe since Lord of the Rings. That's just how good the world building here is. The pacing is consistent. You don't really get the tonal whiplash that you would typically get out of a series like this, where you know, it starts off really slowly on one page, and then on the next page, it's explosive action and, you know, breakneck speed. Everything is kind of, you know, when you have these momentous moments or these exciting sequences, it's, you know, it's played up, so you get a lot of build up and then the big reveal, which is very helpful. In terms of placement, the Rowan would, I guess, be the fourth book in the Talent saga, or the Talent universe, following on from Pegasus in Space, which was the third book in the Pegasus trilogy. But with that said, you know, you don't need to read the Pegasus trilogy in order to understand what is happening. Okay, you can just read the Rowan and its sequels as a standalone series because it works. There are very few, if any, references beyond a prologue that details how the talents and how the space exploration thing started out. So yeah, that's a lot of, that's pretty good. Now, I will say that if you do read the Pegasus books before you read the Tower and the Hive books, it really does heighten the experience. It does give you, you really feel a sense of satisfaction when you're done. Now, with that said, there are problems. I didn't actually find that many problems with the book. The only real problem that I actually had was with the characters. Now, when I said that almost everyone is unique and everybody plays a part, and that I like the characters in the book, the size of the cast is just ridiculous. The cast of characters is just huge, and while this isn't necessarily a big problem, you know, initially, you know, eventually everyone starts to blend together, and when you have a book like this, where everything kind of blends, you know, everything kind of has to stand out in some way or another to make it something of an enjoyable read. When supporting characters start to blend together, as likable as they are, it does kind of lessen the experience in most cases. I wouldn't necessarily say that, you know, it's in this case. I mean, I still think the cast of characters is just too big, and that some of the supporting characters do blend together. But I do think that the focus stays fairly consistent, or the focus stays on the Rowan and on a core set of characters, which really helps to keep the book on track. Overall, the Rowan is excellent, suitable for most readers, although I'd probably keep it away from very young readers. That's just my personal opinion. The story is just fantastic. The premise is very interesting. It's just perfect. There's the balance between action, comedy, and romance is absolutely amazing. I've read books that have had elements of all three, and typically at least one of the three elements is overemphasized and everything else is kind of pushed to the side. Here, though, it's perfectly balanced, so nothing is overbearing. The book is tonally consistent, and the important moments, as I said earlier, when you have these big important moments, they get a lot of hype, a lot of build up beforehand. So when it happens, you really feel like something important has happened. Of all the books, I've read a couple of Anne McCaffrey's books over the years, but this is by far one of my favorites. And just one of my favorite books in general. It's I'm probably going to repeat myself here, but it's one of my go-to recommendations if you're kind of curious about Anne McCaffrey's work and you've never read it before. I would highly recommend picking this book up because it really is worth a read. This is, as I said at the start of the video, the book and in fact the series that introduced me to the woman who very quickly became one of my all-time favorite authors. And the book isn't perfect, it's not going to be for everybody, but it is worth a read. And I am going to cover the rest of the Talent Saga, so I will be looking at the other Tower and the Hive books, and I will be looking at the Pegasus trilogy as well. I'm also going to look at the Planet Pirates trilogy and the Dinosaur Planet books. So yeah, that's 2 more Anne McCaffrey series for me to review. I also, in terms of the videos over the next sort of week or so, it'll be the Tower and the Hive series. And then I have a special video, which I kind of want to use to round out the year and just do something different. So yeah, the next book in the Tower and the Hive series is Damia. And once again, I'm really looking forward to it. I hope you guys will tune in. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. It's been a while since the last video, so hopefully I'll be able to get another 5 or 6 videos in before the end of 2018. And yeah, I mean, I had a lot of fun with this review. I'm hoping that I'll have just as much fun with the other books in the series. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Cheers, guys.